which is a very bittersweet feeling of knowing that your company that you built for the reason of diversity and inclusion was kind of thrown into the spotlight because someone was killed.
I have the wonderful Charlotte, founder of SevenSix agency. It's a marketing and now talent agency.
And then we've got other people that are like, I have never charged that much. And it really, really angers me because I'm like, you're really good at your job and you have had people underpay you because you didn't know what you could receive.
So let's say in a hypothetical situation, there's someone listening to this and they're like, oh my God, I've got to get this report. I need to know, am I charging enough? And then they realize that actually they're being underpaid. Mm-hmm. What would you advise that creator to do to ensure that they're actually start to get paid fairly for their work?
So what I would recommend before you do anything is...
Hi, Charlotte.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. I'm so excited that you agreed to come over.
Of course. As soon as I got the email, I was like, yep, I'll be there.
You were actually the easiest person I've ever invited to this podcast. You were like, yep, sure, when, great.
This is the problem. When you email me and not my team, I'm either like, yeah, amazing, cool. And then I just don't think about anything else apart from the fact I've said yes. So there's no timings. Or I won't reply to you because I missed your email. So I'm a person of extremes.
Okay, so I definitely got lucky maybe.
Yeah, I think I'd cleared my inbox and then you popped up and I was like, oh, hello.
Amazing. Well, I'm so happy to have you. You're a founder, you're a podcaster, you're an influencer, you're a marketer. I mean, I could go on, but we don't have that much time. So I'm so excited just to dive into a bunch of different things that you are currently working on. But before we get there, can you tell me a bit about you, who you are, and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah. So I am Charlotte. I am the founder of SevenSix agency, a part-time / moonlight creator. And I also have a podcast. I have had multiple podcasts in the past, but now I have one. I've always worked in marketing, but I've also always been an influencer. So I've straddled both sides purposely. I've always really enjoyed, so it's quite a long story, but I started a blog when I was in my year abroad at university. I went to Spain and Portugal and was doing a lot of traveling around that kind of Iberian Peninsula, and I thought, oh, let me start a blog to showcase to my parents and my friends what I was doing, because I literally didn't speak to anyone the entire time I was away.
Yeah.
And then on that, I found fashion blogging. I didn't know it existed. This was 2010. So
wow, you were like early adopter, like one of the first few people to start doing that.
Influencer marketing started in the way that we not really know it, but in the way I know it, in like 2008.
Yeah.
2009. So I came in 2010, so a little bit later. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I was at a uni where I didn't love the demographic. I didn't identify with the demographic. Right. So I found it quite lonely. And I used YouTube and blogging and the world of blogs to really kind of find my people. And I did. And I started a YouTube channel around that time, and then found a YouTuber who went to the same uni as me. Who was in the same town as me, and then we started meeting up, and then she really started my kind of YouTube career. Then I quit YouTube and stuck with blogging, and it just continued. And I got a job in marketing straight after uni, and then I just decided to do both because in 2010 to 2014 there was no money in influencer marketing. You were just going places, reviewing lipsticks and stuff. Yeah. Every now and again I'd get paid to do like a hair care post, which would be quite nice. But that was always from America. Yeah. And then as I got into my role, like quite later down the line, I really enjoyed the blogging and YouTube and influencer side because I was able to find creators really easily because I knew them. Yeah. So I was going to the events, I was part of campaigns, and I knew how people worked and what people liked. And it was quite, the relationships I built with creators was quite organic and natural because I was one of them. Yeah. And then when I'd booked them for my campaigns with the brands that I worked with in-house, it was easy. Yeah. And then when I went freelance, I realized that life isn't easy and everything that I was doing isn't normal. I worked with different brands and their teams and just realized diversity wasn't really a thing when did I go freelance? 2018, 2017. And when I was working in-house with different brands, just freelancing here and there, I realized that a lot of the people that were putting on these campaigns had no idea where to find creators that looked like me and you, or my friends, or people that I knew. So I decided to show them. So SevenSix agency came off the back of that. I essentially built a business from a need to showcase really amazing creators. And what it was when I launched and what it is now is different. We were very much a consultancy business when I launched, and now we are a full-blown agency, and we do all things influencer marketing, manage talent, put on campaigns, train brands and agencies, train creators. But when we started, it was literally just like a matchmaking service.
Yeah. So take me back to when you decided to quit your job to go freelance.
Yes.
How comes you decided to do that?
So I was in a role that I thought was like the dream job. But then when I got the actual job, I realized I loved the company. I didn't like the job.
Okay.
And I just said it was a small business. And I just said to the founder, like, I'm too expensive to be here and I don't want to be here. So I'm not doing a very good job. So I took them on I don't know where this came from, but I took them on as a freelance client. I was like,
oh, wow.
I will do the bits that I like, and then the bits that I don't like, you can just find someone else to do it. I don't know where I got that from. I don't know if it was my husband.
It's genius though.
Yeah, it was quite ballsy.
Yeah.
And then I'm quite like nice. I'm a nice person. I don't like to cause conflict, but I do like to fight for what's right. So I just decided to do that. And then when I put my out of office on to say I'm freelance now, go to this email, I had people that I'd worked with in the blogging world email me at my job for whatever reason, and then see I'm freelance. And I literally, within the first week of going freelance, I had 3 clients.
Oh my gosh. So first of all, so amazing that you were so savvy to be like, I only like parts of this job, so I'm just going to carry on doing
savvy,
parts.
I don't know is the word.
Savvy.
I think it was 24 and just feeling a bit like...
Yeah. But I think...
25.
I feel like I know what you mean. But then also the fact that they let you put on your out of office that you had gone freelance and to contact you, because that's quite surprising as well. Like, I don't think the companies I previously worked at, I don't think they would have let me. Oh, see, savvy again.
But also the company I was working for, they didn't really care. And it was run by this like incredible entrepreneur, and she was all about entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
And I think she was just like, do what's right, like to get the work, because she wanted the work to get done.
Yeah.
So
I love that though. Okay, so you've gone freelance, you've got a few clients. That's going well.
Yeah, I didn't know how to price myself when I first, this all makes sense. I'm obsessed with pricing. I have a pricing report too. I didn't know how to price myself when I first went freelance. So I assumed that the rate I was charging was fine. And then it wasn't until like 6 months in, I, in passing, spoke to a stranger about money. There's like, it was a random comment, and I basically said, I might ask if the membership club can waive the fee for the joining fee because it's the same price as my day rate or something.
Right.
And she was like, what? And then she was like, you're this far into your career, you've done this, this, and this. You've just told me all of this stuff. How is that your day rate?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And it was actually more than my day rate. I was just being like,
yeah, inflating the numbers, but just, you know, save some face. Wow. Okay. So that was like your first kind of foray into the world of pricing, and the fact that it's really difficult to figure out how much to charge.
Because I didn't know any freelancers.
Yeah.
Really.
You don't know what you don't know.
And the industry was quite specific. Like there aren't, at that time, I always get my dates mixed up. I always forget how old I am. So I think this was like 2007. No, sorry. This is the problem. This is like 2017. Yeah. So yeah, influencer marketing wasn't like the biggest thing in the world, but it was important. There weren't that many freelancers doing it, but there was a need for it. It was like a really confusing time. Yeah. So I also did a lot of like just general marketing help, because I'm a digital marketer by trade. So I could do anything social media and general marketing. But yeah, it was just very confusing. There was no like website that I could be like, how much do I charge for, you know? Yeah. It was not a great time.
Yeah. And then how did you take it from your freelancer? You've got some clients now, and then you decide to actually turn it into like a business. What happened there?
I think it was a bit of a like quarter life crisis, I'm going to say. Because I was like, I've worked in marketing for like my entire life, essentially. Since even before uni, I was freelancing, doing social media stuff. So I was just like, I'm literally pushing consumer goods onto people all day, every day. Is this what I want to do? Yeah. Turns out, yeah, it is. But I was speaking, I have a lot of entrepreneurial minded people in my life. Yeah. My husband, my sister-in-law, my parents, my old boss, just like loads of people I know. And also I'm in the creator space. So creators are entrepreneurs in their own right. So it's like, should I start a business? Should I start my own thing? I didn't like the idea of being truly like in charge of my own company or in charge of my fate, because I still don't think I am, but I didn't think I was responsible enough to have that. And I didn't know anything about it. I studied languages at university. I don't have any business background. I'm really bad at math. So like numbers are not my strong point. Excel used to scare me heavily. Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I want to do this. And then someone basically convinced me to start a business. And it was a mixture between my sister-in-law and a friend at the time that was like, this is going on in the space. Like this is happening. I'm going to events and people are literally putting their hand through my hair, or I'm going and they're like talking to me in a weird way, or I'm being ignored, or I'm not getting work. And I have these amazing like numbers. Like you can go on my Instagram, you can see my followers, you can see my engagement. And everyone was just like, do something. And I was just like, okay. So I kind of thought it was going to be really easy because I knew that there was a problem. So I was like, right, diversity. Yeah. So I got all the buzzwords. At the time, BAME was like the big, diversity focused word. So I was like, right, we're going to focus on BAME influencers. We're going to really push diversity in the influencer space. We're going to go into brands and talk about it. Literally pitched 3 times. And each time they were like, this is great. Like, I love it. Yeah. But we don't have a diversity problem. So obviously we're not your target audience. And I was like, okay. Like, you're like eyes twitching. You're like, that's not true. That's why I'm here. Yeah. Fine. Okay, cool. But they love the idea. So I'm obviously on to a good thing. Yeah. And this was 2019 now. So I started pitching in 2018 before I like really launched the company. And then 2019, that was like soft launch. And then 2019 was like the big time. And it was just so stressful because I was sitting there hearing these people say they didn't have a problem.
Yeah. Knowing full blown well that they do have a problem.
Internal team looking at the campaigns they're putting on, and I was just like, wow. And then I just let it go. So I was like, fine. So we focused. I was very lucky to have my first couple of clients were people that I'd worked with either from a freelance basis and moved them onto the agency because they were quite different. So moved that over, or kind of family friends and family who had luckily very successful businesses that had the budget to pay for campaigns. So I did that, and then we just got loads of great clients, and there was no focus on diversity. It was just on influence marketing. But with that, we were naturally inclusive. So that was just kind of like, okay, it's a bonus that they work with us. And then 2020 hit. COVID was a very scary moment for a lot of business owners. In the digital world, it was, I think April was just like a really hard month because it was, okay, so all of our clients don't know what's going on. They don't know if they're going to make any money. Our clients with physical stores were shutting down, and we lost like our biggest client that we just signed. We signed them in January. We lost them in March. We did a month's worth of work for them because they had it was a salon. It was a physical space. They had to shut down for an unknown amount of time. So that was really scary. And then all of my bigger clients, like the teams got put on furlough. So we didn't know what to do. And then all of a sudden May hit and everything was fine, and the digital world was booming and all the budgets went into influencer marketing, and we were so busy. And then end of May, beginning of June hit, George Floyd was murdered. Diversity was at the tip of everyone's tongue. Everyone was talking about Black creators and Black owned businesses, and that was just like a whirlwind of which I personally didn't recover from until 2022, I would say, in terms of how busy and amazing it was for the company, which is a very bittersweet feeling of knowing that your company that you built for the reason of diversity and inclusion was kind of thrown into the spotlight because someone was killed. As a team, at the time, we were all Black women in the team, and we had to take a collective 2 weeks off of work because we literally just couldn't process the kind of ridiculousness of the whole situation. And then we had to get straight into work, and it was really busy and it was really exciting, but I really struggled with going from a consultancy business to having a full-blown agency with an office in Soho, a full team of 8 PAYE employees, having to do pensions and all this stuff, VAT registered overnight. Like, it just got really like real and serious and scary. So I had to take a step back for a little bit and kind of rejig the business around, because I realized I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have anything. I didn't plan the agency to grow like that. So then 2022 was all about the rebuild. So we kind of slowed down we got really specific on how we marketed ourselves and what we did. I used to say yes to everything. Like I haven't been on a podcast for a year that isn't my own.
I feel
yeah,
so special.
This is really exciting. It's not. It's exciting because I was saying yes to so many things. If you Google me, if you Google Charlotte Williams 7'6", because Charlotte Williams is a very common name. I've actually changed my name now because I'm married. But
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Wedding looked beautiful.
Oh, it was. Thank you. No modesty here. But there's about 1 billion podcasts with me on, and all talking about the same thing. And it was great. It's good, obviously, for marketing purposes, but it was exhausting because when was I doing any work? Like I was a founder then. I'm a CEO now. I've changed my job title because my workload is different, but I was not doing the job. I was doing a very good marketing manager job. I wasn't doing a CEO job, and the business really struggled. So 2022 was the change of that, and 2023 it's a continued change of that. But we are now a much more serious agency. Before it was definitely winging it, and it was just going off of the wave of, obviously I knew how to put campaigns on and do it really well. My team are brilliant, but client expectation management, client retention, staff retention, keeping our staff happy, all of that stuff, I had no idea how that worked. So now it's a completely different beast, but I actually much prefer what I've got today than what I had when we were the busiest we've ever been. So that was awful.
I mean, I had no idea. It makes complete sense when you run me through that timeline, but I had no idea you scaled that quickly. Like that literally makes me, it gives me anxiety. Sometimes I talk to creators who really, really want to go viral. That's like their main thing is they want to go viral. I've done that as well.
That's not
And I
fun.
always say, I'm like, I actually don't think going viral is the best thing to do because I think it puts so much pressure on your business and the back end of your business. If you've not got that sorted out yet, you don't have the team in place, then a lot of people crumble under that. I think if I went viral really early in my journey, I wouldn't be where I am now because I wouldn't have known how to handle it. So I'm very impressed that you're able to handle so much.
But I think I'm able to handle it because I've got a really strong team, and I question if I didn't have that team and then my family and friends around me, if I'd be doing what I'm doing now, because I went viral as well. So I posted a video in just after the murder of George Floyd. So it was like a couple of days after, I think, to basically so I'm mixed race. My mum's white, my dad's black. My husband is white from an immigrant family. So he's Greek Cypriot. So it's a slightly different dynamic to what my mum has with her family, but he's still white. And we were having really difficult conversations after everything, and I found it really hard to explain to him why. And I basically filmed a video. We had this kind of tiff. It wasn't an argument, it was just like a disagreement. So he went away for a couple of days and I was just like, okay, I need to get my thoughts together, and I just filmed a video that I ended up posting on Instagram. But at the time there wasn't a purpose to it, and it was basically just me talking about how I see racism. But so the video was about how I see racism and what racism looks like to me in my opinion and in my experience. So I used experiences from there's one of the experiences actually from like one of my neighbors that I've had, which is really interesting because I was in a documentary last year about creators and specifically black creators and the Black Lives Matter movement. And I walked past their window. They're lovely people, but I walked past their window and saw me on the screen. And I was like, oh, interesting. They're doing a lot of education stuff now. Because I wondered if they saw my video because it did go far and wide because my other neighbor saw it. But overnight I gained 22,800 followers from that video. So I posted it. My old boss, Sharmadine, posted it on her Twitter. And then it went on her company's Instagram stories or something. And I think someone saw it, another person saw it. Zoella reposted it. And then, what's her name? This is really embarrassing. I don't remember her name. Scully from X-Files. Sex Education.
I don't know.
Gillian Anderson.
Okay, I didn't.
Gillian Anderson like if you go deep down into her feed in 2020, I'm on her feed.
Stop it.
Like she reposted like stuff about me. I think Lily Allen reposted it. She followed me. I don't know if she still follows me, but she followed me after that. And I was like, Lily, you have no idea how much this means to me. I'm obsessed. I'm like actually obsessed with Lily Allen.
Now you two are friends.
Well, I don't know if she'd
invite her to
consider
the wedding
that.
or?
I don't know if she'd consider us friends, but one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, just so many people reposted it that it became a thing. I grew so quickly and I never wanted to be like a big influencer. I had like 8,000 followers at the time. And I was like, that's fine. I make money. This is great. Like I've got my business. Grew overnight. But then the problem I had was I grew overnight and my demographic was mainly black and mixed race women.
Yeah.
So black mixed race or some other ethnicity mixed race women. That's just like my demographic of my following. And any white people were either influencer marketing people, PRs, or like a couple of school friends. And that was it. When I got this influx of new followers, it was a majority of white women.
Oh, really?
And a lot of them were like lifestyle or beauty bloggers or like there was just like it's a very specific demographic.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I don't know you.
Yeah. Why do you think that was? Do you think it was because of what you were saying or because of the people who reposted?
I think it was a mixture.
Okay.
And it was strange. I don't know. I love my audience now, but at the time I found it really hard because I was like, well, what if they don't like me? What if they see the content that I post? And to be fair, I was posting a lot of beauty and fashion content that a lot of them could probably kind of get behind and understand. But I was like, I don't know how to speak to these people. I haven't built my audience. I could have named you. My audience was so strong. I probably could have named you like 50% of them by first name.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, oh, I don't really know who they are still to this day.
Yeah.
But I didn't like crash as much as I thought I would, because when you go viral and you have that overnight success, a lot of times you lose a lot of the followers. So I gained just over 30,000. So I was on 8,000. I got up to just over 30,000. And now I don't really post on my Instagram as much as I used to. I don't have a strategy like I do with I give to my talent and the other creators that we work with. So I just post as and when I want to. So I'm not planning on growing. I just plan on just speaking to my current audience.
Yeah.
And I've only gone down to 27.5 or 27.3.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty good. They've stayed.
Yeah.
And the engagement's not that bad. So I'm shocked that those women came and stayed, but I'm really grateful as well because that also boosted my profile, has helped me do so many things that I probably wouldn't have been able to do before. Definitely pushed the business in a way that it wouldn't have been pushed without that. And it wasn't planned. I just posted a video out of a personal need because I needed to express how I was feeling about racism and experiences to my friends and family. Like my mum literally watched the video. I've known her for my entire life and was like, I've never thought about that. And my mum is someone who was raised in, she's white, raised in a really black area. Most of her cousins are mixed race and she grew up in a very Jamaican kind of culture. She's got 4 mixed race children, a Jamaican husband. She's very like on job when it comes to culture, but even she was like, never thought about these things.
Really?
And I was just like, wow.
That's amazing though, that you're able to impact and reach that many people with such an important post as well.
Yeah, imagine if it was like some shit post that was like me putting on a lipstick.
Right.
Which is also great if that's your thing. But
I had a post go viral on TikTok. It got like 3 million or something views. And it was literally just me talking about this thing called millennial pause. Have you ever heard of it?
I am ridiculed at work because I've stopped it now because of the millennial pause.
So it's fine. But it was just about that, which was like, yeah, it's related to what I talk about.
Someone sent me your video who works for me and was just like, this is what you do. I was like, thanks.
I'm so sorry if I brought that onto you. I've actually just done a lot of millennials a disservice. But it was just like one of my like just casual like funny type videos.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, of course that goes viral. What about all the other stuff?
But did it bring people to...
It did, but not the same as like where I've got other content which was a lot more niche specific and it was quite helpful and valuable. That didn't have anywhere near as many views, but brought on so many more people and like really good quality audience. Whereas the other thing was kind of like, yeah, it brought some people on, but nowhere near as much as my other content. And it was by far my best performing piece of content. It's just the way it happens sometimes.
It's the power of a strong strategy though, because you know what you want from it. So like you could post those and go viral all day long, but that's probably not going to benefit you.
No, exactly. Okay, well, that was so interesting hearing about your journey. And just before we move on, I want to say how amazing it was that you and your team took 2 weeks off during that time. I would have loved that. And to my old company that I worked with, they were really good during that time. And I remember my boss did say to me, like, if you need time off, because they actually invited me to do a virtual event to talk about it. And I was like, I'm not in a mental position where I can talk about this in front of people. Like it was way off piece. We were like a couple weeks in to it becoming a conversation. And I was like, I can't. So after they actually invited me to do the event and I said, I can't, I'm like mentally, this is quite tough for me. And they very quickly were like, oh my God, I'm really sorry. I get it. Take time off. But it doesn't really feel the same. Saying like, you could take time off if you need it. I still felt like I felt guilty if I took time off.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a collective thing. It was just kind of...
There was guilt. I think I took less time. It was also staggered. Some people needed more than others. Not everyone took 2 weeks off. It hit people a little bit later than others. It was just a tough time. I said, you can have up to 2 weeks off and do what you want. But I definitely had to take time off but still work because the founder doesn't really get that privilege. Yeah. But I also had to go in and do a lot of talks. I was very much on the circuit at that time doing talks internally for businesses on how to support your Black employees, which I will say at the time I wasn't sure about the impact and, I wasn't sure if I was just being paid for lip service, but I've received some incredible feedback from employees of companies I've worked in-house with or gone in-house with to say, I got time off for this, or even I realized that the company's not for me and I've moved somewhere else, but your talk made me realize that, and like all of these different things. So I was really grateful to be able to impact people's lives in that way. I am quite good at shutting down my emotions. It's one of my many talents and also really negative points about me, but so I was able to just keep it together for a lot of the time. But then I think at the end of 2021 into 2022, I actually had to take some time off because it all came back a little bit later. Yeah.
Okay. So talk to me about 7/6 Agency. Can you tell me just briefly what you guys do?
Yes. 7/6 Agency is my baby. We are a small team. I'd say we are a boutique agency. We focus on influencer marketing. So we do talent management and influencer marketing campaigns. We also do training, and that's for brands and agencies to understand influencer marketing in general or inclusive marketing. And then we help creators understand their worth, not necessarily through training, but through events, linking them with the right kind of brands. Like we do a lot with like LTK, an affiliate scheme program, affiliate program, should I say, or Pinterest, onboarding them onto the app and things like that. Just trying to showcase what's available to creators that isn't just post to post on Instagram.
Yeah, I love that. And then I actually became familiar with 7/6 Agency years ago because one of my friends forwarded me your influencer pricing report. So this was before we even met. And then I remember when we met and we were doing a panel and I was like, oh my gosh, I know her. No, I don't.
We're best friends.
Yeah, right? It's a parasocial relationship. Yeah, I know her. So talk to me about that report because I absolutely love it. And I'll put a link to it in the show notes so that everyone can grab a copy. But tell me about the inspiration behind the report and what it actually contains.
Okay, something that we learned when we were busy in 2020 was that data was power. So there was a lot of times we were talking to brands and they really wanted to diversify the creators that they were working with, but they were still just picking the kind of palatable people of color. So either they had lighter skin, looser curls, straight hair, European features, whatever that might be. So we basically needed something. It was a very selfish report. We needed something to give to brands and other agencies to say, this is what you're doing. And I was like, right, we're going to make a report, but we needed to make it sexy. So I didn't want it to be like, this is all the racism and like bigotry we're seeing in the industry in a report. I want it to be like, here's a resource for you to use that can help you do your job. So we surveyed influencers on how they felt about, well, basically it was all about their pricing. So how they priced themselves, how they felt about their pricing, how they felt about their ethnicity and their pricing, and if they felt that there was an effect there. We also got the breakdown of, their, what did we do for that one? It was very much focused around ethnicity and race. So we asked them those questions about that, and then follower size. And I don't think we did anything else in diversity categories for that one. But it was very much focused around who they were and how they felt. And then on the other side, we interviewed surveyed brands and agencies, and only asked them about pricing. So we just said, how much do you pay creators who have this following?
Yeah.
How much do you pay creators? Because in their minds, a creator looks like a certain person.
Yeah.
So I want to know that perfect creator, how much would you pay if they had this following and this engagement, this following, this engagement? I also wanted to understand their budgets. Had they increased or decreased? And a lot of them had increased since pre-pandemic. There's so many things that we asked them, but none of it was around race or ethnicity.
Yeah.
We really wanted it to be like clean.
Yeah.
Like, you tell us your budget and how much you pay.
Yeah.
We then merged those two things together.
Yeah.
So we got stats, and I don't want to put any stats up because I always forget, because we've done 3 reports now and I mix all the numbers together and it's actually quite embarrassing. But we got stats around how certain creators felt that they were undercharging or they didn't understand their pricing as well as they should. And the majority of those creators were Black or South Asian creators. We also saw that there was a massive disconnect between how much brands and agencies were had to pay creators and how much these creators were being paid.
Yeah.
And for me, that came from a knowledge gap. That came from them, the creators, not understanding how much they can charge, and then the brands and agencies not telling them how much money they have to pay. And if you say, I'm going to charge £100 for an Instagram post, and they have 500, as an agency or a brand who's trying to save that money, they're not generally going to come to you and say, actually, we've got £400 still allocated to you. Do you want it? Generally, that's not the case. 7/6 is actually something we do. I've told the team, I try to review it as much as possible. So if you have not had that experience, please do message me, because I like to get as much feedback from creators as possible. Something we don't do is change your fees if you're managed by an agency, because that is not our responsibility. We've had that in the past where someone has said, oh, it's not as much as in your report, and it's like, well, your agency that takes 20% of your fee, set that. That's what they asked for. It's really not our responsibility, unless it's like wild. It's not our responsibility to undermine their strategy for you. If it's really bad, we have mentioned it, or we've taken the creator to the side and said, you should probably deal with that, which we've done recently. But generally, it's not our responsibility. We're here for creators who manage themselves or have a talent manager that isn't like a big agency. They're like a friend or an assistant that are going off the back of the creator. So that was what the first report was. It was just to figure out how much we should charge. We got all the data from it feels so long ago, but we got all the data from the survey, and we basically said, this is how much brands have to pay people. The data aligned really nicely with how much we were charging for our creators. And it was only Instagram focused, because at the time TikTok wasn't even a thing. And that was it. Then last year we did a collaboration report with MSL Group, which is a much bigger agency that have a lot more resources than we do. And we worked with them. They released this report that delved a bit deeper into the different diversity gaps that we have in the influencer space. So it talked about the disability pay gap and the age pay gap, which is, so the race pay gap was 18% between people of color, I believe, and white creators. Disability, I can't remember what the disability one, but the age one was 157%. Because
oh my God.
There's a real weird gap between how much people are paying older creators than they are.
I had no idea.
Yeah, that report's really interesting. So I'll send you a link to that one as well, because it's different. It didn't have any pricing on it. It was very much around stats. And we used that report internally a lot for when I do talks and presentations, because it was really nice to get that data. And working with a bigger agency that wanted to focus on that was nice. Because we don't always have the time to do as much as we want because we're so small. So when they said they wanted to do it, we were like, happily help you with that. And then this year we released an updated report on our last report, which is basically just numbers. It's talking through, I refuse to talk about race and ethnicity anymore or any diversity. We did it last year. I don't want to talk about it every single year. It's boring. We know the data. Yeah, so I didn't want to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
Like we did the data last year. We presented it for the first time in 2021. We were the first people to do this. Many people have released reports off the back of it, and it's exciting and I love it. Keep bringing the data out. I just can't talk about I'll come back to it in maybe 2025, 2026, but I can't talk about diversity data anymore. Read the data that exists, but I can give you tools to help you bridge the gap.
Right.
So the report for this year, 2023, was focused around updating influencer pricing for Instagram, which, to be honest, everything pretty much stayed the same apart from nano influencers, so between 1 and 10k followers on Instagram, because the rise of the nano, we're seeing much more interest in nano influencers because influencer marketers are putting ad spend behind, so putting money behind their posts. The UGC creator is a new buzzword, which makes absolutely no sense to me at all. That's not what, this is something for another time, but I don't understand why they're called UGC
Oh my
creators.
God, because that's not what UGC is. It's
No.
like oh my God, thank you.
I've had a rant to everyone I know about this. It's backwards.
Yes, I say the same thing all the time. I'm like, that's actually not what UGC is though. When it first became a thing, I was like, huh? But now that's just what everyone refers to it. So
I know. So whoever made that up has got a lot to answer.
I know.
It's TikTok. TikTok has a lot to answer to.
You're the first person, actually, no, my fiance who also works in the same industry said the same thing, but you two are the only people. Everyone else is like, what?
Yeah.
Like, Jade, shut up. We don't care.
I talk about it all the time. It blows I just hate, it's basically misinformation.
Yeah.
But so nano influencers are more, people wanted TikTok pricing. We surveyed people, we got the numbers. They were almost unusable. So we ended up actually having to manipulate the data through just going through, because obviously we have experience in this.
Yes.
So it's not like we're just getting data blindly and then kind of posting it. We know how much people charge because we have an abundance of rate cards in our drive that we work with creators on all the time. We've paid creators for the last 4 years. I personally have paid creators for the last 7. We have so many talent management agency friends, so we ask for rate cards from them, and we have industry expert friends. So we basically combined all of that data and made what we consider to be fair pricing for TikTok. We say to use it as a guide because you might want to charge more, and that's your prerogative. And we give insights as to why you can charge more and what we would pay more for as an agency, and what our professional friends, when I say friends, it's like industry experts, also said that they would pay more for. So things like, are you a professional if it's, money focused and you happen to be an accountant and an influencer? Are you an entrepreneur who has a focus in that space? Are you a doctor? Things like that. And it's a medical focused product or whatever. That's really important. So we tell you why you can charge more. We focus on the tangible reasons and how to really price yourself. We give a calculator that we've been given in the past by another agency on how to work out your usage rights, because that's very confusing. You can work them out in any way that you want. You can just pull a number out of the air, but if you want a calculator, that's there as well. We gave very specific instruction of how to price yourself, and we did that on TikTok and then YouTube as well. And I'm really proud of it because we've had interesting feedback. Some people yep, spot on. Most of the talent managers that we work with are yeah, spot on. We've had people that are like, oh wow, I don't charge that much, but I'm going to. And we've now got some really good case studies that we can share that it's worked. And then we've got other people that are like, I have never charged that much and I don't know anyone who has. And I'm like,
as in they think it's too much or too little?
They think it's and this isn't a dig at all. It just makes me really angry at the industry. They're like, this is ridiculous. These fees are too high. And it really, really angers me because I'm like, I've seen some of their content. You have incredible content. You're really good at your job, and you have had people underpay you for however long you've been a creator because you didn't know what you could receive. And I can promise you that whatever campaign that you've been on, someone's been paid more than you. And it really breaks my heart because they're adamant that they don't know anyone that's been paid that much, but I do, and I pay that much. And we work with a mixture of like household names, really big brands, to small businesses. And we are still able to, you know, I often tell creators to have a small business rate so that if, you know, you want to work with a small business and they can't meet your fees, then you have another fee in your pocket that you throw out. And if they can't meet that, then, you know, you go your separate ways. But I often say that that's important. But they, we often get small businesses pay the full rate as well, because, you know, they're paying
the value.
Yeah. So it's so hard, and it's just really hard to receive that and not be able to help fully, because we're not their manager, and that's not what we want to be. We don't want to be everyone's manager, but we do want to share the information that we have.
Yeah. So let's say in a hypothetical situation, there's someone listening to this and they're like, oh my God, I've got to get this report. I need to know, am I charging enough? And then they realize that actually they're being underpaid. What would you advise that creator to do to ensure that they're actually start to get paid fairly for their work?
So first of all, I want to make it really clear with the report that it's a guide.
Yeah.
And not everyone will pay you that. There's also brands that I know, and across the board, talent managers, we laugh, we refuse to work with them because they are the big brands that we shop in every day, and they refuse to pay creators the appropriate fees because they don't need to, because there are people out there charging pennies instead of pounds. So what I would recommend before you do anything is just check on your content, because this is something that I struggle with sometimes. Yes, you can charge these rates, but what does your content look like? Yeah. Are you actually providing the service that you think you are? Yeah. I think that's something that people often don't do. Like the creators that we work with, they might not have the biggest following in the world, but they make really good content. And that might not be, so as an example, I don't personally, as a creator, make the most beautiful content you've ever seen. I'm not a content creator. I'm an influencer. So I have a good reach and a really quality audience. Yeah. So when brands work with me, I focus on hitting their target audience. Yeah. Whereas there are other creators that are on our roster, like Leslie, Fresh Lens. She creates content that's like billboard worthy and it's stunning. Yeah. And every time I see something that she's created, I'm like, wow. But a lot of time goes into it, obviously. Yeah. But she's really good at her job. Yeah. And that is her job, whereas my job is different. So I think you have to know that it doesn't have to be about making like award-winning, like studio worthy content. But if you're not making that, then is your reach like super high? Is your audience, and a lot of industry people are saying like reach is redundant now internally in the industry. That's what's kind of going around. But I don't believe that's true. But it's all about what you're able to offer. So I always say there's 3 types of creators. There's the content creator that creates like that beautiful content. There's the brand awareness creator that can bring really good, that can provide really good reach and bring like target audience to where you want to be. That could be someone who posts about your fashion brand, and then she's got a load of like fashion editors that follow her, and then you then get free to kind of PR off the back of it because someone's written an article because they found you. You know, that's really important. I would consider myself one of those creators because that's what my audience is like. And then there's the sales churner. There's someone like no matter what, they're gonna make you that money. Yeah. Sometimes you can be all 3 things. That's a unicorn. Not very often. If you can be 2, that's great. Yeah. But I'm happy with 1 sometimes. If you're really good at that, and each campaign that you have has different KPIs, objectives, goals. Yeah. So if your campaign that you're on, if the focus is around sales, then you need to be a sales creator. Yeah. If your focus is around, like we're working on a campaign at the moment and it's got 2 KPIs. One is content creation because they want to repurpose the content, and the other one is brand awareness, and they want to see an engagement rate of X%, and they want to bring people to their page. And those 2 things are easily executed when you've got creators that you know can do those things. So that's what we focus on. Yeah. But yeah, so hone in on your abilities. Don't get upset if you don't make, you know, that content, but you know that you can do something else. Focus on that. Figure out who you are. Yeah. And then get your ducks in a row. So just figure out how much you need to charge, what that looks like. Start charging it. See what the pushback is. If you're getting absolute no's and it's sticking at your original price, then really do look at your content. And if there's not an issue with the content, then maybe, you know, it is racism and you might need to call them out for it, or, you know, some kind of discrimination, depending on where you sit. If you're being met and there's no issue, then you can probably charge a bit more. I'm really bad at pricing myself. I don't often do my own pricing. If you ever want a cheap campaign with me, email me directly, because I'm just like, yeah, sure, I'll do it for 50p, whatever you want, get out of my inbox, go. And then I priced myself recently for something just to get it out of my inbox. And then my sister, who heads our talent division, came back from holiday yesterday and was like, and I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you literally charge like, well, it was something like £900 less than what I normally charge. And she was like, and the way she just said, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's always
she
a
knew
sign.
It was a bargain. I was like, oh.
When they return really quickly and they're like, yeah, sure, let's proceed. And you've got the contract within minutes. That's when you know, you're like, but I could have charged more here. I'm
an expert in this. I fight for rights for creators all the time. But when it's with me, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I don't take myself seriously, which is a big issue, but you need to as a creator, because if you don't, who else is going to? So luckily I've got the backup from my team. But you don't need a team. Having an agency is great, but not every creator needs an agency. We've worked with talent before that have come off of our books because they do not need agents.
I'm glad you said that, actually, because a lot of people ask me that quite often, like, when's the right time? I think a lot of people feel like they have to at some point, when actually it's completely up to you to make that decision. And for some people it's right, and for some people it's not the right time to do it.
I know
that's okay.
Huge creators, like millionaire creators who, they obviously don't manage their inbox, but they have an assistant, like a VA that does their inbox. And then they might have like a PR or like someone to do some strategy with them. But generally everything is all in-house. Sometimes it's like they get their husband to do it, or their sister. Look at Patricia Bright. Patricia Bright, her sister runs the kind of company side of her business.
And I think Nella Rose doesn't have...
Yeah, she's recently, in the last year, kind of brought it in-house.
Yeah. My fiance does most of my like partnership stuff, like does a lot of the negotiations, because it's so much easier for him. I have to distance myself because then I'm like, but I want the brand to like me. So he does a lot of the negotiations.
This is my problem. People pleasers.
That's why I'm like, you do it. I'll be like, charge this much. And it works totally fine. But yeah, and you know what I loved about what you just said was when you were talking about the different types of creators that there are. Because I think a big thing that a lot of creators have is they have this gap in their knowledge when it comes to the marketing side, because obviously not everyone has a background in marketing, which means that it's tough for creators to see what their role is in a marketer's campaign. So some creators think, I can't work with a brand yet because I don't have hundreds of thousands of people in my audience, because they think all a brand wants is awareness. When you're right, that's not true. Sometimes it's content, sometimes it's conversions, like, and understanding what you're good at and what you can deliver and articulating that to a brand is like amazing, because you speak their language.
It's so important. I keep saying this to my team. We're kind of understaffed at the moment. We're hiring. So if this goes out in the next couple of weeks, we're hiring for 2 roles. If you're into talent management, come my way. But I really, really want to do a webinar on the campaign process of what it looks like. That's it. It's not going to be anything salesy. It's just this is how a campaign works. And we have our influencer network, which is now, depending on when this goes out, it's called the Creator Club. We've rebranded.
Mine is actually the same.
Oh, really?
It's the Creators Club. It's literally the same thing.
Oh my God, stop it. But
they're both great.
They're all great. I think there's a few. There's like 100 influencer networks. There's 100 creator clubs. It's just we're trying to hit more of a Gen Z target audience.
Right, okay.
And my team basically told me I was old. But there are a few creator clubs or creators clubs around. It's not new, and I think it's good to have the same thing over and over again, because people will identify what it is. Because our space, there's not enough terminology in our space, and people, like, we are hiring for a talent assistant role at the moment, and outside of the influencer space, talent is recruitment.
So it's really cool.
We had a CV from this person who thought she was applying as like a recruiter, and I was like, this is a talent management agency. But yeah, we have all these like videos and stuff that you can have it in the hub. But the only reason that hub exists is because I just want creators to know, like, for us, we make our money. We're not like a influencer business coach. And I love all of the people that are like, the content that you create actually is mind-blowing. And we've put you in our newsletter a few times.
Thank you.
Because it's that your knowledge and insight is super important, because there are a lot of people that don't have the same knowledge and insight, but still talking. And that's a bit worrying.
Oh my God, even more so recently.
TikTok.
And it, honestly, I won't go into it, but this is why I'm not very active on TikTok, because I'm so paranoid as being aligned with a lot of the other accounts. I'm like, I don't want to be grouped as one of those coaches. So that's honestly a mindset thing that I'm struggling with that platform.
I have a weird relationship with coaches. I know a few, and some of them are really good. Some of them, I don't really understand what qualifies them. But for us, we make our money through the brands.
Yeah.
If we have a good roster of talent that we can have on a database, then it makes our campaigns easier and better. So for us, we have this database. We ask so much information, more than anyone has ever asked in the history. So when I see people doing it now, I'm like, oh, that's nice. But we were the first people to ask these questions, really. People ask like, you know, where do you live and all that stuff. We're like, what's your sexual orientation if you want to share it? Where are you from? Do you speak any languages? Like, we need to know this information, because we get really specific briefs, like really, really specific. And we want to make sure that when we get something, our industry's so last minute. So when we get something in, we can literally just like type it into our database, and then we can pull something out. We've had really random campaigns. And if you're part of the influence network, you would have been a part of that. But we've had some random campaigns where they need very niche people. Yeah. And we've always been able to fulfill the briefs, because we've got such good insights. Yeah. But that for me, it's so important. But we don't want to be like the influencer coach. Like we don't have time. That's just not part of our business.
It's a whole different business model.
Yeah. And it's a great business model. I'm seeing it, and I'm like, wow, I could really give this all up today and become an influencer coach and make so much money. Who needs a team?
Maybe one day.
No, it's just not for me. I like to delegate. I don't like to be like the star of the show or anything.
Yes, that is, something further down the line. I'm a bit like, oh, this is actually quite hard sometimes, because you always, like, you are it. Yeah.
I don't ever, when I launched SevenSix, I said I was never going to be the face of the business. Yeah. But then I quickly realized that I actually have to be the face of the business. People like someone to...
They like to align a face with something. Yeah, it makes them connect with it more. So I want to change pace a bit now, because you have a podcast with BBC. I do. I'd love to hear about the podcast and also how it came about.
Yeah, the story is really good about how it came about. And for me, networking is key. So I am a firm believer that everything I've got is definitely off of hard work and pretty much off my own back. I've come from a really working class family. I had no idea how to run a business. I had lovely friends and family around me that helped to a certain extent, but like everything, you know, got there because I just did it. Yeah. To the point where my husband's really like good with numbers and like does a lot of financial modeling and stuff with businesses, and looked at my numbers a couple of years ago, and he was, not my numbers, my processes a couple of years ago, and he was like, how the fuck is your business still running? And we were thriving. And I was just like, it just is. And he was like, you can't do this. And he had to like come in and like rejig my business. And it's so much better now. Thank you, baby. But it was funny because I was like, it's just a gut feeling. Like, I know the numbers. I know what's in the bank account. I know. And he was just like, that's not how business works. I was like, okay, cool. But for me, power of network, like finding people who you can ask. I don't ask for help too much. It's one of my flaws. But I can definitely rely on people to give me solid advice or their opinions on if I'm being crazy or not. And I just network in the right way. It just is one of the things I've always believed in. Yeah. So I got an opportunity come through the FT through someone that I'm now still, she's moved companies three times now as of this week. And I'm still friends with her. I still meet her for lunch. And like, we met when she was at the FT, and now she's working freelance and consulting with different brands. Her last company, I wore some dresses that she lent me for some award ceremonies and stuff. But this girl was like, can you sit on a panel? I was like, yeah, I can. And it was a good panel. One of my friends was on the panel, Ishita, the founder of Biorotation. Nice. And then a guy I hadn't met before who was actually from my hometown, which was really random. We had friends in common. And then the woman from the FT who was the interviewer, the host of the panel, not the girl that I knew, basically at the end of the panel just touched my leg and was like, Charlotte, in an appropriate way, Charlotte, loves talking to you. Do you podcast, or do you ever do like interviews? And I was like, yeah, I have a podcast. Because at the time I was doing Sustainably Influenced, which was with one of my best friends, Bianca. It still exists, so if you want to listen to it, Sustainably Influenced.
I'll put a link in the show notes.
It's such a good podcast, but I had to take a step back at the end of last year, which was really hard. So now I have to listen to it rather than chat on it. But I said, yeah, I do. And she was like, well, I've got this opportunity where I've been offered a podcast opportunity and I think you'd be really good for the role. So it was basically just, I had a chat with her. We vibed. She liked what I was about and she put me forward. And then I went in, I did like what do they call it? One of those tests, like a vibe test.
Yeah, I was going to say like a pilot, but I guess not a pilot.
We did do a pilot as well, but before that we had to do like a
culture fit type thing?
Yeah, kind of thing to make sure that...
Chemistry
test.
That's the one.
So I did a chemistry test and it was like, do you work with the team? Do you work with the other hosts?
Yeah.
And it went really well. And then it was a production company that was pitching. I think they got a brief from the BBC and then they had to pitch it to them.
Yeah.
So we did the pilot. The BBC loved it. And then it went straight into production, which was great. It was a good experience because my other podcast was very different. It was just a chat, which I loved, but I very much got off lightly there. I literally walked into the studio, no preparation, just vibes. Bianca would always roll her eyes and be like, oh, it's your episode, where are we going with this? And I'd be like, follow me, it's great.
Buckle up.
Literally, it was a lot. And then with the BBC podcast, it's scripted. So I had to read a script. I had to get training, like coaching on how to read a script and stuff because I'm not
cool,
very
That's
good.
quite valuable. Like that type of
really valuable
support. Yeah.
It's helped with a lot of other things I do as well.
Yeah.
So, and the team are so great. My co-host for that podcast is a guy called Amit. He's a journalist and we're so different but also quite similar, and he's so funny and I really like enjoy his company. So yeah, we've just been renewed for a second season and it's going to come out in July.
Woo!
Yeah, so I think we'll be recording next month for it, and it's different. It's like solid, like we sit for a couple of weeks and we just sit in the studio and we just go, it's 10 episodes, we just go hard, and then it's done, and then we just wait for it to be released.
That is so amazing, that story. And I love that you shared it because I feel like starting this podcast has made me realize like, oh my God, networking is so important, because obviously I started thinking, okay, who do I know? Like who could I call on?
Podcasts genuinely is such a good way to build your little black book. So because of my sustainability podcast, I know I don't work in the sustainability sector, so it's kind of a waste for me. Bianca is great for, but I have so many friends now in the sustainability space. I got a DM earlier, which I need to reply to, for like this campaign opportunity that was just like a fun like gifting thing. But from someone that I had on the podcast like a couple of years ago. It's just so many things have come from meeting people, and then also it makes it easier when you go to events and stuff. You're seeing these people.
I've seen you. I mean, I've seen you at 2 events. One was actually Glasgow, so it doesn't quite count. And then
I forgot. Oh my God.
It was in like, what's that like makeshift club called?
NYC Download.
Yeah, NYC Download.
It was not a good time to meet each other. I was like, oh my God, hi. And I'm over friendly. I am very over friendly. If you ever see me on the street and I know who you are, I will literally be like, hi, how you doing? Like my friend said this the other day. He was like, I hate bumping into you.
Bumping into you.
He's like, I was like, mate, you're like my husband's like best friend. He was like, no, because you are so excited to see people. So when you see me, you want to chat. And I don't want to chat to you. If I'm out on the street, I'm not prepared to chat. I just want to go about my life. But you want to have a full-on half an hour chat.
Full on chats in NYC Download.
Which is
not a difficult thing. It's not a thing.
You can't do that.
You can't. But the other time I bumped into you was a YouTube event.
Yes.
And we actually met because we were on a panel together for YouTube Black. So, I mean, I feel like I don't have as much skin in the game when it comes to networking, and I can learn quite a lot from you, but I'm seeing the benefits of it already, right?
Yeah. Go to as much as possible. I'm doing the opposite now because I'm a bit tired.
Yes. You've been doing a lot of stuff.
I've been to everything. Yeah. So now I think it's giving other people opportunities. So my team, I get invites, I try to send them out instead, just because it's a lot. And I also don't have as much time anymore being a creator isn't my focus. So when I get a campaign and I do it, it's because I really like it. Yeah. It's not because it's not that I don't need the money. You always need the money, but I can't juggle the time at the moment. It's just not a possibility, which I'm hoping soon I can, because I'd love to go back into being a creator, because it is fun. But I used to say yes to everything. I used to go to everything. And at the time, it was a great idea. Like meeting the PRs, meeting whoever, the brands, the founders, going and building those relationships, not being in my later life. Now I'm like the person that sits by the food and goes with a friend and then leaves immediately because I just feel like I'm talked out. But when I wasn't that person, going and meeting the people and building those relationships, because when they leave, they'll move somewhere else. They remember those, they remember the stories that you did and the chat that you had and whatever it was, and they will take you with them.
Yeah.
Literally every time someone moves that I know, something fun happens. Like I've got a talk that I'm doing in May off the back of someone I know who's just moved agencies, and she's obviously been like, right, I want to do some fun things. They've given her budget to do stuff, and she's like, right, let's get the people I know in. It's always that case. So making those friends, building relationships outside of the brand is important if you want to be successful as a creator, I personally believe. Or just being viral, like unstoppable, and you know, making amazing content that people are paying like ridiculous amount of money for, then you're always going to get the money. But that's harder.
Yeah.
You can't always be consistently viral.
Yeah. Well, no, you can't. You can never really predict that, can you?
Unless you're Munya Chihuahua.
Yeah. Well, then, yeah. I mean, but the amount of effort and that goes into his content, it literally blows my mind. I would love to see the actual production
He must
process.
have like 7 million hours in a day, because there is no way that
and
one
he does
person
it so
can
quickly
make that
as well. Like he's so topical. Okay, so thank you so much for today.
No problem,
I've had
thank
such a great time catching up with you. This whole conversation has been so valuable. Like I know so many people are going to get so much from it. So I guess let's just sign off by sharing how people can find you and learn more about 7Six Agency.
Yes, so you can find us as an agency at 7sixagency.com. We also are 7Six Agency on all social media platforms. I'm Charlotte 7Six, the letters, not the numbers, I have to spell it out, on all social media platforms. And yeah, we're always talking about something. It's normally about pay, but yeah, that's where we are.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks guys for listening.
Bye.